But let's zoom out even further. Let's talk about the economy and the adaptive economy that has to change, because in the US, we know that we've built a middle class economy that's basically not sustainable. Without government subsidies, without student loans, without mortgages that almost brought the country to its knees in the 2008 recession, we have created an economy that has a lifestyle that we all aspire to, and yet only half the population believes they're actually in the middle class economy. And even that half that's in the middle class economy is living in it in an unsustainable way. They're doing it with a lot of debt, whether it's credit card, mortgages, student loans, or government accumulating debt at the government level. So there has to be a better way. And the guidance for that better way may well come from other areas in the world, such as the emerging markets, where 70% of the GDP growth is expected to come, in the coming years. And several billion people aspire in these emerging markets to join the middle class. And what is it that they can bring to the middle class aspiration? Well, they can bring a different model of a middle class, one that could be much more affordable. Why? Because they don't have the money. They won't have the kind of money that we've had in the West for many decades. In fact, some of them may never have it. And so consequently, instead of living in a 2,500 square foot suburban home, they may live in a 700 or 800 square foot apartment. They may not drive a $30,000 automobile. They may drive a $7,000 automobile or even a motorcycle. And you can go through product and service and look at lower price points, being more resourceful, using the frugal expense model, which the Asians have become known for, and say there may well be some insights that we can import to the West that will be useful in redefining the affordable middle class, which is what I would call the adaptable middle class, as we adapt ideas from all over the world to come up with products and services that are less expensive. And who needs the most? Well, the generation of the millennials are learning that when they graduate from college, as many do, that the jobs aren't there waiting for them. Many of them are still living at home because they can't find jobs and therefore can't afford to pay the rent or buy a house. And they are the first generation in perhaps the last 100 years that haven't been able to look forward to being more prosperous than their parents. And in fact, the millennials are actually getting comfortable with that because they aren't measuring success by what they own. They're measuring success by a different set of values in their life. And they're willing to make trade-offs. Some refer to it as the sharing economy. They're willing to share resources. So they'll, rather than buy a car, they'll go to Zipcar and they'll rent a car that's easily available for a low price. Or they'll use Uber, or they'll use Lyft and rent a car just like you would get a taxi, but in a very convenient way, accessing it over their smartphone. Or they will go to RealReal, and women will get clothes that would cost a lot of money to go out and buy new, but they'll buy them when they're slightly used at a substantial discount. Or they will rent clothes, like Rent the Runway. And there are many, many innovative examples. Many of these companies are turning into billion-dollar businesses that are being created by millennials for millennials. So the millennials are an adaptive generation. Corporations that are going to be sustainable in the future are going to be adaptive corporations. The economy in the future, the middle class economy, which has dominated the West, in the US it's roughly 70% of the GDP spend, is only going to be sustainable if we can make that economy affordable. And that's why I'm excited about the idea of how do we create a customer experience that's even better, and we'll talk about customer experience a little bit later in this series, and how do we do it at prices that are really disruptive from anything that has preceded it. And these are the ideas that can be so powerful in adapting to a very different world.